Jack is diagnosed with Hypoplastic Left Heart Syndrome and is one of the rarer forms of congenital heart disease. These kids used to be known as blue babies years ago before they knew what it was. And they, when he was born, he had a perfect APGAR. He was a normal, healthy baby. Had we not known prenatally, I'm sure the outcome would have been very different, especially because we live an hour away from any major hospitals. But it's a very significant heart condition.
And the steps were put out in front of us. I mean, you know, you could abort the child, but that wasn't an issue. I mean, it's never going to happen. And palliative care, or we could go ahead with surgeries, a series of 3 open heart surgeries, they said. And you know, we were going to do everything we could to make sure Jack made it into this world. So.
When they talked to us about the course that Jack's health was going to take, they explained the 3 surgeries to us, and the one major complication or challenge that they talked to us often about was feeding, and that was a big issue for Jack. Jack was on a feeding tube until he was 5, and I don't consciously remember them ever talking about motor skill delays or any type of cognitive delays. But that's not to say that they didn't. At that time, we were just so overwhelmed with things, and all that mattered was that he was alive. And it was just, after every surgery, he's alive, and that's great, and everything else just seemed so trivial in nature. You know, the big thing was that he continued to survive, and everything else we would just deal with. And as a parent, you know, we could tell the educators and tell the teachers and talk to them. Any new experience Jack had was not a pleasant one. It involved a lot of pain, and he didn't understand it, you know, for the first 3 years of his life. And so any change, anything like that would cause him a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. He was afraid. We started with noticing that he was having some challenges academically. He was meeting all of his milestones. He was appropriate grade level until he started getting into some of the harder math and things like that. So that's when it came more of an educational IEP. Throughout the elementary school, we had the IEPs, but it just didn't feel like anybody was really listening and not really supporting Jack the way Jack needed to be supported.
You know, it got better, you know, every year a little bit, but I remember one time one teacher said, well, you know, Jack doesn't, we all sit on the floor and we sit Indian style, and Jack's always moving around. And I said to her, I said, you realize that Jack's abdomen muscles aren't the same as other kids. It hurts him to sit like that. And it's just things like that that the teachers, no disrespect to them, but they just didn't know. So that's, you know, when a program like this comes along, able to help educate the educators, it's awesome, it's a great thing.
Because when you look at Jack, Jack doesn't outwardly, you can't see, he doesn't look like he has any medical conditions. And and having it be so rare, it's not your typical conditions that teachers were seeing in the classroom. And to try to get them to listen and try to understand, it was really very frustrating.
I think that is the thing that our program brings, is just that extra layer of, oh, I don't have to navigate school all by myself.
It's nice to have someone stand up for you and stand up for your child.
These are medical professionals that come from Children's, from the Herma Heart Institute, where our child is being treated, that are coming to you with facts. You can't ignore us anymore. You can't pretend that and that there's nothing going on. This is what's going on, and now we need to find out how we can support Jack. I think if we did not have, or if this program was not involved in Jack's education, I think that the expectations of his educators, they would expect less. I think he would continue to move on, but I don't think that he would have the education or the skills that he needed to go to the next grade level, and that's what we were finding. That they would just see, he has an IEP, let's just get him through this, you know, and oh yeah, he's doing good enough. He's doing good enough. Instead of really helping him succeed and knowing, really taking and understanding what he's capable of. And he'd graduate from high school probably with a 5th grade education. Honestly, that's how I feel where we would be at. And then he wouldn't be equipped to, you know, go on and get a job, or he wouldn't have the skill set and he's perfectly capable of doing all of that. It would be a huge disservice. He still is, he's going to be going into high school this fall, so he's still at like an 8th grade, and he's reading level, and he's in pre-algebra, but their grading system was much stricter, and he got all A's and B's. He only got 1 C. It was the best year he ever had, and his self-worth and his self-confidence grew exponentially because he was allowed to do it.
I would say that if you don't feel like you need this program because you're doing fine, it's not my place to judge. If you're okay with that, you're okay with that. But if you're struggling, I would really suggest using the school intervention program, because it has really helped me out a lot through the past few years, and it is a really great thing.